It's 2005. You come back from school, have lunch, boot up your PS2. You heard the noise of a console. ACD is running. After a few seconds, a 4GT appears on the TV screen, and epic music starts playing. You skip the intro and load your career, going for the Sunday cap again, just for fun. You're going to live another great afternoon playing Gran Turismo 4, not knowing that, 20 years later, it will be considered perhaps the greatest racing game ever. Now that 2 decades have passed, it's time to deep dive into the story and legacy of GT4. Gran Turismo 4 wasn't the first game of its kind. Polyphony Digital released the first chapter, Gran Turismo, in 1997. The first chapter alone made it to history books of video games and racing simulation. It was a commercial and critic success, classified as universal acclaim by Metacritic, a worldwide famous review aggregator. It was praised for the successful balance of simulation and arcade driving, the variety of cars and tracks, customization features, and a good feeling of actually taking part in a race. All of this was carried out to the subsequent games, making Gran Turismo the best-selling racing game saga of all time. Gran Turismo 2 saw the light in 1999 with over 600 cars. Gran Turismo 3, the first on PlayStation 2, was published in 2001. The available cars were reduced to 180, but the game explored the potential of the new console. In the early 2000s, the real driving simulator, the Gran Turismo saga, was the undisputed king of racing games. Fans expected Gran Turismo 4 to be under their trees by Christmas 2003, but Kazunori Yamauchi, the leader of Polyphony Digital, had a project too ambitious to finish on time. Instead of leaving the fans empty-handed, they released a series of consolation prizes that will become spin-off in the Gran Turismo saga. The Gran Turismo concept titles were the first. Then came Gran Turismo 4 Prologue, the first glance at a new chapter. Prologue was a snapshot of a work in progress. It featured just 50 of the planned 500 cars and only 5 tracks. Much of the DNA was still rooted in the past. Menu sounds, music and graphics were recycled directly from GT3. The European version featured a making-of documentary which remains, after more than 20 years, a testament to Kazunori Yamauchi's passion for the series. For the Japanese fanbase, instead, a special content came by buying a Toyota Prius. In a marketing stunt, the car came with a complimentary PS2 disc containing the Prius trial version, 1 lap of Tsukuba, 1 car, and a series of Japanese videos explaining hybrid technology. Behind the scenes, the Japanese version of Prologue shared more with its predecessor than we realized, cause it used the same file formats as GT3 and Concept. Modders eventually discovered they could backport tracks and cars into the older engine. When the game came out, Polyphony rewarded the loyalists. The ones who had GT3 and Prologue saved data on their memory card would have the possibility to start the career with a boost. While many were disappointed that Prologue wasn't a full game, it served as a vital purpose. It was the bridge between the redefined polish of the PS2 early games and the massive 700 cars behemoth that Gran Turismo 4 would eventually become in 2004. It brought a next level comprehension of the work behind the scenes, something that you don't see anymore in the world of gaming, let alone in the world of racing games. December 2004. Gran Turismo 4 finally sees the light. It was first published in Japan, in the following months in the rest of the world. This was the moment racing games changed forever. A new benchmark has been set. 721 cars from 80 different manufacturers, 51 tracks, both real and fictional. The NTSC version of the game featured an upscaling up to 180i, pushing the PS2 software and hardware to the performance limits. An overall feeling and selection of content that made people feel the love of the developers put into this game. Fans loved it. Polyphony Digital made up for the delay with the quality of the game. It felt authentic, realistic, it was the ultimate racing sim at the time it was launched. With such a wide selection of location and cars, arcade mode has its own appeal. The freedom to choose any combination of car and track and simply race. Enjoying the feeling of the car on both real and fictional circuits, on tarmac, dirt, and snow. The game was praised for the ability to make player lead the race. The car responded to every input, each car in a different way. Going full gas on a laser storm made the controller or the steering wheel shake like you were losing the control of the speed. The Jaguar XJ220 LM felt completely different, similar speed but more manageable, while the Ford RS200, a Group B rally car, was optimized for dirt but had a good drivability on asphalt too. And the Saleen S7, the GT300 and GT500 cars, the Formula Gran Turismo, the Jay Leno tank car were losing ourselves into the game. That was Gran Turismo 4. Starting to play meant exploring motorsport from a lot of different sides. An entire generation grew up with the game, getting into cars thanks to it, driving on both famous and unknown tracks, sometimes cruising through cities like Paris or Tokyo, other times on iconic raceways like Laguna Seca and Suzuka. On the Suzuka circuit, there was, within the Gran Turismo mode, the opportunity to race a 1,000 km race. That was the entire 24 hours of Le Mans and Nürburgring to race. Once again, we are faced with an overwhelming amount of content, all of which culminates in the Gran Turismo mode, the main experience of the game. GT4 was praised by both motorsport and gaming fans for the career mode, which took the name from the saga. Gran Turismo mode was the opportunity to simulate an entire career. Starting with 10,000 initial credits, players embark on a long-term journey with the goal of acquiring every car in the game and mastering its very vast array of tracks. Activities were proposed across a large interactive map, with car dealers, tuning options, driving licenses, and racing events. Licenses remained the gateway to progression. There were 80 skill tests divided into 5 levels. Sometimes getting a gold medal meant studying and trying for hours. It became a point of pride to be able to get gold medals in all of them. One of the most memorable challenges was the Mission 34, which forced the player to chase a Mercedes-Benz 300 around the Nürburgring Nordschleife while starting from a massive gap. However, cars remained the focus. Once acquired, new or second-hand, and tuned with official brands like HKS and Rally Art, it was time to bring them on track. The core of Gran Turismo mode lies on the events. A player's first car was likely a Japanese one from the 90s that was only good for the first races, the initial section of the beginner level. To drive the sports car of their dreams and take a leap into professional events, before getting to the extreme ones, players had to climb the ladder from the bottom, being exposed to different racing disciplines and locations they have never heard of. Often, a race was entered with a tuned car that now resembles a garage version of a prototype, with a maxed out engine and exhaust. The best cars had to be earned, and the sense of joy when finally it happens describe how success should feel. After all of that, after another race, there's the replay gallery, the photo mode or the jukebox for the soundtrack. Even today, the Gran Turismo 4 soundtrack remains a masterpiece, anchored by the legendary composition of Daiki Kasho and the soulful menu jets of Isamu Ohira. Most tracks define the game's elegant atmosphere. Yes, elegant. Gran Turismo 4 was far more than racing. While Gran Turismo 3 and Concept had paved the way, Gran Turismo 4 was the moment when Polyphony Digital decided to push the limits of Sony hardware. Even today, it's hard to believe that even as early as 2000 this level of detail was possible, with in-game car models reaching from 4,000 to 6,000 polygons and showroom versions nearing 10,000. It offered a level of detail that felt like a glimpse into the future. With its rock-solid 50 FPS, 60 on the NTSC version, and breathtaking lighting, shadows and reflection, with the reactive crowds on the Grand Canyon, it was among the first games to blur the line between game and reality. Even decades later, photo mode capture still floods social media, proving that its virtual artistry can easily rival early PS3 titles. The community is still active and has a dedicated subreddit with thousands of weekly visitors. Graphics made for the sense of immersion, but physics made for the feeling. The real driving simulator has been the claim of the series since its very first title. Polyphony Digital series has always sought to find a balance between arcade-style driving and simulation, which is also ideal for those using the game to train with Driving Force GT steering wheels, developed in partnership with Logitech and optimized for GT4. With the fourth chapter, it became the most simulation-oriented title on the market, while still somehow keeping the arcade feeling. It was a same-cade physics system that opened the road all the way to modern professional simulators. The car had to be driven properly and within their own limits. The artificial sense of speed of games like Need for Speed was replaced in GT4 by the pursuit of actual speed, with the possibility of making mistakes and the necessity of making up for them without boosts. Rally legend Sébastien Loeb used Gran Turismo 4 to prepare for his debut at the 2005 24 Hours of Le Mans. Having never raced on the Circuit de la Sarthe and with little time for real-world testing, Loeb spent hours in front of his PlayStation 2 memorizing every turn of the French track. In 2006, he took the podium in his second participation at the French Classic. This was not an isolated episode. The accuracy of the Nürburgring Nordschleife in GT4 was such that many drivers began to regard it as a reliable training simulator. The game laid the groundwork for what would become the GT Academy, the program developed by Polyphony Digital that transformed gamers into professional drivers. It certainly isn't as realistic as newer simulators like Assetto Corsa, iRacing or Race Room, but as far as PS2 allowed, it was to a large extent. While people get into automotive and motorsports through different paths, for an entire generation Gran Turismo 4 is a fundamental factor. Today, 21 years after its release, Gran Turismo 4 is regarded by the community as an unattainable pinnacle for several technical and structural reasons. First, the sheer volume of content. Many modern racing games focus on graphical realism but offer a guided and limited progression system. GT4 was free and immense. The sense of progression, from buying a used Toyota Vitz to winning the Professional World Championship, has never been replicated with the same depth. Second, the absence of modern distracting elements. GT4 was a declaration of love to cars. Every element pointed to enjoy mechanical miracles like the Mazda 787B in a digital world. Everything Polyphony Digital had created was already on the disc, an entire ecosystem of challenges. Third, it was entertaining. Playing GT4 sparked something in the player that made him never want to stop. The feeling of needing to explore more, to see new content, to go on just for another race was intense. What Gran Turismo 4 taught to millions was how to truly appreciate this hobby of ours. Passion for cars was reignited, knowledge of motor racing was expanded, many discovered cars they never heard of. It had a real-world impact on the life of people. Some of them even decided to work on motorsports thanks to it. Revisited Gran Turismo 4, feelings aren't just nostalgic retrospection. This game is a time capsule that still feels refreshing in today's landscape. That's why longtime fans of the saga worked on mods to make the game even more enjoyable today. Thanks to PC emulation, the game can be rendered in native 4K at 60 frames per second, eliminating the original graphical limitations. Mods such as Spec 2 and Retune massively reorganize almost every aspect of the game, while the randomizer makes every run unique by forcing the player to not know what's coming next. All of this is a testament to all the love GT4 still receives. In a market where games often fade away after just a few years, Gran Turismo 4 remains a benchmark up to the point that many fans hyperbolically state every following game is, in fact, a sequel of GT4. It has managed to capture not only the movement of the wheels, but the culture of cars. It is an historical archive of motorsport that continues to influence the way we think about virtual driving. The Gran Turismo saga had 4 other chapters to this date, some criticized and some others appreciated, but never again one single game had such a strong impact on both simulation and arcade racing. Never again one single game was capable of capturing attention and making people genuinely develop an interest for cars. And that's why, still today, we think of GT4 as the real driving simulator that Kazunori Yamauchi always wanted to be.